Money is one of the major reasons why many relationships, whether romantic or business, break up. In today's video, I want us to look at how you can maintain your business relationship with a client that is struggling to pay you. Let's get started. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Ndalama Insights Business Show with Mukonkela, where we turn your challenges into actionable insights. Today, I want us to look at how you can maintain a business relationship with a client that is struggling to pay you. If you've had a client that you've worked with for a number of years that is suddenly struggling to pay you, you need to know why this client is failing to pay you. There could be many reasons, but today I want us to look at 2 reasons why the client may be struggling to pay you. One of the reasons is because the client just doesn't have the cash to pay you. And as you know, many people are going through a difficult period. Many are trying to save as much of the cash as possible to ensure they get their business up and running. And so the last thing on their minds is actually paying off debt. The other reason could be the client just wasn't happy with the product or service that you provided them. So in order for you to really save that relationship that you have with this client, you need to establish the main reason why the client is unable to pay you as agreed. So there are 2 major reasons here. One could be that the client just can't afford to pay you right now because they don't have enough cash flow. The other reason could be that the client wasn't satisfied with a product or service that was offered to them. So go to the root and establish the reason why the client is hesitating to pay you. So if your client reaches out to you and says that they would really love to pay you, but they are struggling to pay you because their cash is really tight at the moment, and maybe they want to reserve as much cash as possible so that they can get back their operations, and then they'll be able to pay you when their business gets back on track. Don't lose your cool, because this is a good client and they genuinely want to pay you, but they're really struggling to pay you. If you lose your cool on this client that genuinely wants to pay you, you might actually shut them off from paying you in future. What you want to do where you have a struggling client that is failing to pay you is you want to make sure that you keep a good relationship with the client so that you've got a large possibility of the client paying you in future. Think about it. It's better to eventually get paid than not to be paid. So when the client reaches out to you and tells you that they really want to pay you but they're struggling with cash, you really need to listen to them and figure out a payment plan that is suitable to their cash flow as well. By offering them another option or another payment solution, they'll be grateful to you and will work hard to make sure that they pay you back. You see, many times, people that are struggling to pay you want to pay you. It's just that they're struggling to find the cash to pay you. And so if you are open-minded and are able to provide other options such as a payment plan or even another way of repaying back that debt, maybe provision of a service or something else they can do for you to pay back that debt other than the way you had planned that debt to be repaid back. Because at the end of the day, you want to recover your money or to recover the cost that you had incurred in providing that service to the client. So be open-minded to providing other options, payment plans, so that the client can work hard to ensure that they repay you. I think a client that you are able to communicate with that tells you that they're not able to pay you and you give them an option or options of how they can repay you back, maybe a payment plan over a long term that fits into their cash flow need, will really appreciate that and are going to make sure that they work hard to repay you back that debt. And also consider accepting installments. Don't just stick to, we need to get the entire invoice amount at one go. If the client offers you to pay in small installments over a period of time, that is what you need to do. Agree to that option. Because remember, you want to recover your cash without damaging that business relationship. especially if it's a client that is valuable, that you need even in the long term. Another consideration with regards to recovering cash from your customer, and at the same time remembering that you want to save this business relationship, is weighing your options. Is it worth it for you to chase this client, or is it a small amount, maybe a 1% of your total sales value, and really is not that significant, such that you can actually, write off that debt and reserve that business relationship? It's really important that you maintain relationships with whatever client you are working with. And so if the value of the invoice is not very significant, look at that, where the energy and time that you're going to spend in chasing this client compared to maintaining that relationship with them. And you could communicate to the client telling them that you've written off their debt to help them get back on their feet. And learning from the example of our country, we've got a government that is strongly pushing towards the cancellation or restructuring of our country's debt. If lenders are able to give us this option of cancelling the debt or restructuring the debt, it is going to give us enough space for us to recover our economy. And so think of it in a similar way when you're dealing with your clients, especially at this moment. Many are still struggling to get back on their feet. And so if you are able to cancel their debt or even restructure it, that gives them enough time to get back on their feet, so that you still maintain that business relationship with them and look at the future value of your relationship with them, because we hope that you still continue working with them. And so look at it from this angle as well. Now, where the invoice amount is significant and it's a huge percentage of your sales volume, you shouldn't hesitate to communicate to this client in a friendly way. Send them reminders and emails. And depending on their responses, escalate the emails or letters that you're sending to this client. And finally, transfer this debt to the lawyers. Now, I know this is quite controversial, but if it's an amount that is significant and you really want to recover it, then consider the option of hiring a lawyer that is specialized in debt collection or recovery. And let the lawyers deal with that issue. Or rather, before you even get to the lawyers, you could actually consider hiring a debt collection agency. I've seen a number of companies that offer debt collection services. They could follow up that debt on your behalf. And where that route fails, you may consider hiring a lawyer that is going to take the legal route in order to help you recover your debt. Now, these two options are the last that you should consider, because they might result in you damaging that business relationship with this client. And so once again, if you've weighed your options and you find that this client is better off let go, then you might consider going the legal route, or indeed sending this client to a collections agency. Now, the second reason why your client might not be paying you is because they are unsatisfied with the product or service that you had offered them. Where do you discover that the client is not paying you because they are not happy with the product you delivered? Maybe they ordered green chairs and you delivered red chairs. Yes, they don't want to pay for the red chairs, and so they are hesitant to pay you until you deliver the color of the chairs that they had ordered. And so it's very important for you to establish the reason, especially if it's a big corporation. Payments get stuck because of minor reasons such as these. And so establish the reason why the client is not paying you. So where you discover the reason is because the client is not satisfied with the product or the service, you definitely have to go back and deliver the product or service that they had desired or that they had ordered. So simply deliver the product or service that the client wants. And once that is done, follow up and ensure that the invoice is paid within the agreed period. Now, before you can even reach to the point where the client is unable to pay, what steps should you take to protect your business relationship with your clients so that you don't even reach that point where the client is unable to pay you? There are a few tips that I want to share with you. And one of the tips is that you need to research your clients really well, thoroughly, before you can actually engage with them. Do a research on your potential clients or prospective clients. Find out where they are coming from. Who else have they dealt with? How have they been paying? Collect as much information as you can on them. And when you are dealing with a client for the first time, don't go all the way and extend a huge amount of credit to them. Start slowly and start increasing the credit limits on them as the relationship starts progressing. So you don't want to take a big risk from the start by offering them huge amounts of credit that you are not guaranteed of repayment, or that you are not really sure about if they're able to repay back. So do extensive research on your potential clients and document that. Have a file against any client that is trading on credit with you. The second thing you need to do is have a written contract or agreement. Whenever credit is offered to one of your clients, always have it in writing and have it signed off. One of the things that you need to include in the contract is the payment schedule. You could agree that 40% must be paid as a deposit, and then 20% might be paid after 30 days, and possibly the balance could be paid after another 60 days. And so you need to be very clear with the payment schedule in your contract. You also need to be specific about the mode of payment. How should they pay you? Can they pay you through cash, check, transfer? Agree the mode of payment and be very open-ended with regards to how they can pay you. Don't be too strict, because you want to make it easy for the client to repay you back. If it means getting mobile money transfer, do that, because that is what you want to recover your cash. So give them a mode of payment, but don't be too restrictive. Accept as many modes of payments as possible, especially modes of payments that are suitable to them. Your contract must also specify the penalty on late repayment of the credit. So you need to be very clear with your late payment policy. How much interest are you going to charge them if they pay you late? And it's very good policy for you to actually charge an interest on late payment. This way it deters your customers from paying you late, because they are aware of your late payment policy. The third thing you need to consider is asking for a deposit. So when you offer credit to a customer, don't go all the way and give them 100% credit. Offer them a percentage of the credit. Always ask for a deposit on that credit amount. So for instance, a client might be asking for goods worth 5,000. You could ask them to pay 50% of that bill. So they'll pay a 2,500 and only get credit of 2,500. That way you minimize on the risk, so that when they default, it is a risk that you can you can bear, or it is a risk that you can afford to lose. So you don't lose the entire amount of the credit that you had extended to this client. So always ask for a deposit. Supposing you are a small business and your customer is the government or a large corporation, how can you go about recovering your debt without damaging the business relationship? Because let's face it, you need them, right? Well, if you are a small business dealing with a large corporation, you need to understand that large corporations have payment terms. And most of the times their payment terms are normally around 30 days. And they've got different departments where your invoice goes through. So you need to establish exactly where your invoice is held up, so that you can follow up and ensure that you're able to find out the reasons why your invoice hasn't been paid and resolve the issue and get your invoice through the different departments that need to authorize that invoice, so that you can eventually get paid. So understand that large corporations have got different departments through which your invoice has to go through in order for it to be authorized for payment. So where there's a delayment, establish where it is being held, so that you can follow through and resolve that issue and get your invoice all the way up to the payment department to get your invoice paid. If you are dealing with the government takes a little bit longer to pay you. Well, not all the times, but sometimes. they could take 30, 90, or even more days, as many of you might actually relate to if you've worked with government before. When it comes to working with the government, you really need to have a deep pocket. You need to have enough cash flow to make sure that you've got enough money for your day-to-day operations, so you don't rely on that invoice from the government to run your day-to-day operations. So when it comes to government, ensure you've got a deep pocket. Ensure you've got enough money for your day-to-day operations. But then again, also establish good relationships with the government departments so that your invoice can be paid within the agreed payment time. Most importantly, ensure your work is done as agreed so that this doesn't affect your repayment. Well, this is all I had to share with you in today's video. If you've got any other suggestions with regards to how a client can be paid faster without damaging a business relationship, do leave your comment in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button and also the bell icon so that you can be reminded whenever I have a YouTube video out. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.